Hey, Jim Munch back here at Bayrock Financial. I hope you're having a great week. I just had this wonderful experience. I met my new friend, Linda Lingo. We met on LinkedIn. I read her story, and I thought it would be such a treasure to get to visit with her and get to know her a little bit. So I'm going to share our interview. She was kind enough to interview on Zoom, and I'm going to share that interview with you. In fact, Linda was kind enough to consider the possibility of future interviews. So we're going to take a look at a few topics, and she will share her wisdom and her words of encouragement from a financial coach's perspective on a few key topics relating to financial life planning. So I hope you enjoy the interview. I'm posting this with a link to Linda's website. So if you're looking for a financial coach, I would strongly recommend you talk to Linda, especially if you're a woman. She's a woman, and when she shares her story, you'll know why. I think it's a great idea to work with a financial coach in your corner as you do financial planning through life's transitions. So here's my new friend, Linda Lingo.
I just turned on the recorder, and just so you know, I can edit.
You're very high tech.
Yeah, well, it's you just buy the stuff. I use a Mac computer, and it works really well, so it's
Awesome.
not that hard. But you look great. You won't need much editing, but just if we say anything or if there's a big bang in the background, then we can easily fix that. Thanks for taking time to hang out with me for a few minutes.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it.
So we were just chatting on the phone before we, I changed shirts and you put on lipstick.
I did.
So we were
We have
chatting.
our priorities.
Yep. And since then, it started pouring. I'm here in Houston, Texas, and I just got in from going to lunch, so it's pouring. Hopefully that doesn't mess up the video too much. But when we were chatting on the phone, I was telling you that I reached out to you on LinkedIn because I read your story and it was fascinating to me. And I was hoping that you would be kind enough and generous enough to share it and let me record it so that I could share it with my network here in Houston. And I teach personal finance at the University of Houston. And I think your story would be very interesting to some of my students too.
Yeah, love to.
Cool. So I worked on Wall Street at Morgan Stanley, and I worked on a team with a gentleman whose focus was high-performing men. Mainly his focus was trying to get their assets under management.
Mm-hmm.
But when we were in meetings, I found, the reason I was on the team was a lot of my friends, including him, they call me the Dr. Phil of financial planning because I asked different kinds of questions, and I think over time I related well with women, but I always found myself in meetings with the leader of our team, and he would always talk about investments, and it just seemed far away from the things that really mattered, especially to the ladies, the women who were participating in the meetings. So when I read your story, I thought, been there.
Unfortunately, so have I.
So tell me about that, because when I read your story, it was great. And I just thought, I'd love to hear you tell that story.
Well, thanks for asking, Jim. I appreciate it. Well, it was a while ago. So, hopefully things have changed some since then. But, I think they have in some respects, but not completely. So I was a CPA. And I have an MBA in finance, and I had been a corporate controller in a Fortune 500 company and had built up a nice 401k, and we had made a move. And I had actually, at the time, I was a stay-at-home mom because I was rethinking my career choices and I love being a stay-at-home mom, had our second child late in life. But so we had just recently moved to Northern California and didn't know too many people up here. And so I was looking for recommendations because at that time I definitely preferred having, face-to-face conversations with my financial advisor. And so a person was recommended, and by somebody that I respected. And so I did end up, going with him after he called on us a couple times. And I had annual reviews with him, and that was, occasionally he'd call, but not really. I mean, it was mainly annual reviews. And back then, so this was like 15, maybe 20 years ago, 20 years ago, probably, when I started with him. And so there, it was very, I would say, cut and dried as far as, some mutual funds. It was pretty straightforward. And, but I really wanted to dig into it, and I wanted to know what I owned and why I owned them, and, what it was thinking for certain recommendations. And at this particular meeting, I really had some questions, on the bonds, why they were performing the way they were. I didn't know that I didn't think I need to be in that much bonds. I thought it was too conservative. I'm a risk taker. And anyway, I asked the question. I thought, okay, I'm not, default. I'm not asking the question correctly. And I thought, okay, in your mind, you think, okay, how can I ask this question another way? So, tried doing it again. And he still, it's like, okay, I'm not getting through to him. I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. And so I asked it a third time. And every time I asked, he was just more aggravated and more aggravated. And, eventually sitting back in his chair and his hands are across his chest. And he's like, it's like, how dare you ask this question? And I asked it one more time, and he leans. So keep in mind, it's a very male, obviously, office, dark, I don't know, mahogany wood. And, I'm across the table, of course, and he's in his big chair, and, just one of dominance and masculinity, I'd say. And he leans across the table. He puts his hand over mine. And he goes, honey, as long as you do what I tell you to do, you'll be just fine. And I thought a lot of things, and I'm not going to repeat them right here, but primarily I thought, how dare you? I just had this I felt so belittled. And so, he didn't take me seriously. And he wasn't willing to investigate his time, to invest his time to educate me. And I thought, I'm not stupid. I know accounting and I know finance, and this is just a technicality, and I don't know why you can't explain it to me. Anyway, I gathered up my statements and put them into my portfolio, and I said, and I stood up, took my hand out from underneath his, and I thought to myself, I will never grace your office with my presence again. And shook his hand, was very cordial, and walked out. And needless to say, I never went back. As a matter of fact, so this is the good ending, or it's not ending, but an intermediate part. I was so upset, and I thought, how many other women have had the same experience? How many other women have been so intimidated that they didn't dare to ask the questions, that they didn't understand what they were investing in, that they didn't know? And I thought, I'm not going to be one of those women. I'm not one of those women. And I went home, and I thought, I can do this job better than he does. I have the technical background. I can certainly learn stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And I did. And I looked up I Googled it, how do I become a financial advisor? What does it take? And I took the exams. I became a financial advisor. Now, keep in mind, I got my license in September of 07.
Wow.
07. I built my practice from zero through 08. And I was a financial advisor for 10 years. I had, I built it up to 50 million, which maybe isn't a lot, but to me it was perfect. I primarily worked with women and couples, but mainly women, I built my practice on the premise of no financial question, no money question is a dumb one. You can ask me anything. And I don't know all the answers, but I will find it out, and we will work together And so it was always on trust was number one. I wanted my clients to trust me, and I wanted them to know that they could ask me any questions so they could be educated, so they could make informed decisions. Because at the end of the day, my philosophy is the money was my client's money. They were entrusting me to make recommendations. But I always said, you are the one that has to sleep at night. You are the one who will be looking to this pot of money for income in retirement. So we need to make sure, especially with women, and this is something I have found coaching as well, safety and security are the number two concerns of women. And the closer women get to retirement, the bigger those concerns are. So in working with women, it's been really critical to make sure that they do feel safe and they do feel secure. And of course, those are two words you can never use as a financial advisor.
Yeah.
Oh, you can be safe. No, you can never say that, or secure. But, and that's one of the reasons, I love being a financial advisor. It was very enjoyable. I helped over 500 households with their investments over that period of 10 years.
Wow.
Got to know families, and I still hear from many clients, and they're actually my best referral source. They send clients my way all the time. Took early retirement because what I found in being a financial advisor was you didn't get paid to educate. You got paid to invest. And, I got it, but I didn't like it. And so I decided, I really want to educate. I really want to coach. And so I took early retirement, went out on my own. I've been coaching now for almost 5 years.
Wow.
And I love it because I get to educate all the time. I do blogs. One of the ways I've been reaching out, especially during this time of the pandemic, is I have a weekly Women Talk Finance happy hour, because I also think you need to have fun. And so every Thursday night at 5:30, people can go to my website, lindalingo.com, and they can, log in to my happy hour and get the Zoom. But it's where either I talk about current events, or I have guest speakers. Like this Thursday night, I have a friend of mine, Dr., who's going to be talking about emotions that are bubbling up given this time. So it's really a fun time. We learn a lot. And but I'm all about, I want to give back. I want to help others. I want to educate them. And then we continue the conversation in a private Facebook group that I have too.
Very cool. I got to ask, on your Thursday night Zoom happy hour, do men get to come to that ever?
Nope.
That's sad.
Women.
Just
Because, well, what I have found is when there are men in the room, whether it's Zoom or physical, women close down. Even husband and wife, they tend not to ask the same questions. And that's when I'm coaching with couples. I coach the wife first because I want her. This just happened 2 weeks ago. I had a wonderful client. I coached her first because she was so unsure of herself. And she was scared. She was actually scared. She was fearful. That's what it was. She was fearful because she didn't know where they stood financially. She didn't know if she had enough, when they could retire, what their retirement income was going to look like. And I took her through my steps, and it was so gratifying. But at the end, I talked to both her and her husband, and he was supportive. But it just, the dynamics were more powerful when she could come from a point of education, clarity, and confidence.
That makes so much sense. I wrote a book called Make Your Money Count after I became a certified financial planner, and it's really a financial coaching book, but I use this blueprint. It's an actual blueprint. And when I meet with couples, I always like to start with a question, what's your first memory of money?
Yes.
And I tend to say, who wants to go first? And usually he does. And I always say, well, try to let her go first, because I've experienced what you just said so many times, that especially in a financial meeting, it's like the expectation is that the man is going to be the leader and he's going to lead the conversation. And I try to change that, because it turns out when the woman does share, if she does share from her heart, which is generally where she will share from, it changes the whole tone and the kind of trajectory of the conversation, which is usually pretty good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It sounds like your coaching is a lot like mine. Mine's built on 4 pillars. It's your money mindset, and then, tracking your expenses, of course, and budgeting. So, um, spending less, saving more, and then giving wealth.
Yep. Very much like that. I tell people that, my goal in the financial planning process is to help them experience more clarity and confidence and contentment in their life. And the clarity part just comes from getting clear about where your money is, where it's going, where it's coming from, and those kind of things. And just doing that tends to increase your level of confidence, which for most people, especially women, this sense of safety and security is improved when there's a sense of having a plan. And I think that's, in my opinion, that's a big part of the value that we offer as financial planners.
Mhm.
And coaching, I agree with you 100%. You don't get paid for coaching and educating. But I think the folks who do this business really well can't help but invest that extra time and energy and passion helping people in the kind of way you do as a coach and an educator.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
think I love that, you were very successful. $50 million as a advisor is a really respectable amount. I believe, I know a lot of folks in this business, including myself, who, we wanted to be independent business owners because we like to be independent. And, you can make a really good living with a relatively small amount of assets under management, and do a great job for folks. So, um, I when I read your story, I thought I would just love an opportunity to get to know you a little bit, and it's a real treat to get to have an interview with you and hear your story. And I'm looking forward to sharing you with my network. And you've got a website, and I've been on your website. I love it. I'm going to be reading your blog posts, and when I do this video, I'll do a little editing, and I'll make sure that your website is there so that folks can see how they can get introduced to
Lingo.
Linda Lingo. I always say logo. I've said
That's okay.
ever since I met you, it's Linda Logo. It's Linda Lingo. So I'll make sure that that's easy for folks to get in contact with you, both in the links on YouTube and in the video. I'll show you have a beautiful website.
Thank you.
Um, you didn't design that yourself, did you?
I didn't. I actually worked with a great website designer out of Seattle, and a great photographer too. So
Yeah, I've got my son-in-law, Jamal he loves to he's got a great little camera, and his phone takes amazing pictures, and I'm going to hire him to take my picture like yours. I love your pictures. You've got several settings where you're just
yeah.
looking very, very inviting, and you have a phone up to your ear, and I just love that. So
Well,
it's
I work virtually, so yeah, that's how it is. Do that or on the computer. So
yeah.
it works out well.
So
Yeah,
I'm sure it won't come out nearly the way I hope, but with your permission, I'm going to steal that idea from you and try to replicate it somewhere.
that is quite all right. Go for it.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
You
Yeah.
bet. Do you have anything you want to share before we end this wonderful little time together?
I would just encourage women to don't be afraid to ask the question, because if you have the question, you know what? At least 3 of your friends have the same question. The other thing I would say, in another area that I uh, work a lot in, just because of my personal experience, is helping women through divorce. It's um, it's one of the most emotional times you'll ever have in your life, and it's really critical for women to have a plan before they decide to get a divorce or enter into a divorce, and then going through the divorce, and then financial planning afterwards. So, that's another area where happy to help. I actually have a checklist for women who are considering it, things you really need to have in place to make sure that you're financially prepared to take that on.
That sounds very helpful, and it makes me want to ask a couple additional questions.
Mm-hmm.
One is, how would you coach someone like me or any other financial advisor who might just happen to be a man who's working with or trying to develop a better way of helping women? Because serving women for some reason seems to have been, it's over my career, it's just natural. I like working with women, and I think a lot of women like working with me. And even though most of my clients are married, I always relate well with the woman, and the man is always trying to, their whole idea of planning is to make sure they take care of their wife. But how would you coach me in that context of working with a woman or coach another financial advisor?
I would say first, listen more than giving advice. I would say ask open-ended questions. And I would say, so this is my experience with women. Most women are so busy being mom, wife, mother, career person, they don't have time to think about themselves until they're empty nesters. So usually around 50, and that's really my ideal target customer, is a woman who's turning 50. I say she has an OMG moment. It's like, holy crap, how did this happen? All of a sudden the kids are off to college or through college, and she can really focus on herself or her, the two of them, and focus on their retirement planning. And so I would say, is my advice would be to ask her and them about what their dreams are. What does her future look like? What does her retirement look like? And the other thing is, retirement isn't an event. It's a transition. I think way too many of us think, oh, I'm going to turn 65, I'm going to retire, and then I get to go play golf all day long or tennis or whatever it is. And I'm finding that's not true at all. That most people want to continue because they need a purpose in life. So when I coach, and I would invite you to do the same, is ask them those questions. I have a coaching session where I walk through them defining what their values are, because I find that you have to have goals that align with your values. Otherwise, you won't follow through on them. So whether it's saving for retirement, whether it's paying down debt, whatever it is, they need to be able to define their values. And I would say that women are probably better at it than men, because men think it's too woo-woo, touchy-feely stuff, which it's not at all. But when they can work on it, their individual values, but then when they can come together and discuss those, I think in some ways, as a financial advisor and a coach for sure, you're often a marriage counselor. I got into, I coached a couple marriages, and it's like, okay, well, I'm glad I was there, and I'm glad I helped them through that. Because money and sex are the number two things that don't get talked about. I always say I'll leave sex to somebody else, but I can talk about money, and I can ask questions, and I can explain things. And I think that's our goal. That's our role, is to be able to bring it down, not dumb it down, but be able to discuss financial and investments in a term that people understand. And that's one thing I'm really good at. And I think that's, something I would recommend is listen, ask good open-ended questions, and then follow up and learn about them. Let them talk about them, whether it's the kids, the grandkids, because that will tell you where their heart is, what their purpose is. And once you know that, you can help them, educate them in the portfolio that serves them best, or the investments that serve them best. But that typically is not their primary, they don't go thinking, okay, I want him to get me a 20% return on my stocks, It should be, I want to work with somebody I trust and who will listen to me and who wants to know what my goals are. So
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Linda. That's tremendously helpful. And I think not just for me, but I think it will be helpful and encouraging for anyone who watches this interview and just understands that whether they're a man or a woman, that should be part of the conversation in the context of financial planning and and that's something that I think, one thing I learned on Wall Street at Morgan Stanley is, just like you said, we got paid for investing, and we didn't really get paid for helping people transition or helping people connect their purpose with their money. And so to me, those are significant things that we get to do to help people that's why I started my own business. So I
congratulations.
appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Hey, I want to ask you, there are a lot of topics. One of them would be, transitions like divorce specifically in terms of financial planning and the transitions that occur. Would you be open to having another interview where we maybe tackle a topic and you share some of your wisdom and some of your encouragement and hope with the folks who would be going through those transitions? Specifically, I think divorce would be a great topic to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, we could definitely schedule that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you a gift. This is my book. I'm going to sign it and send it to you.
Okay.
I'll get your email either from your website, or I'll get you to email me. But,
it's easy. You can just send it to linda@lindalingo.com is one email I use for business. So
very good. And it's not Linda Logo. It's Linda.
No. Lingo.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much. I'll be back in touch with you soon, and I'll send you this video after I edit it so you can say yes or no, or, I think it's going to be just fine the way it is, but I'll let you take a peek at it first.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I look forward to next time.
All right. Sounds good. Have a great one.
You too. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'm going to end the recording and...
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. My new friend, Linda Lingo. Don't forget, check out her website, sign up for her blog, and consider having a financial coach in your corner. It makes a lot of difference. Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you next time with a few cool topics where Linda will share her wisdom and her words of encouragement from her perspective.